Okay, today in geometry we're starting Unit 1A, Day 1, Vocabulary and Notation. So we're going to talk about points, lines, segments, rays, planes, and angles. So let's go ahead and just start with points. So point is really just any point. It's represented by a dot. So specifics, this is a dot. How do we draw this? Just a dot. Or some kind of location. Named by symbols and letters. So if I have this dot here and there's an A next to it, that is point A. I could call it point A in a sentence, and this A is always capitalized. Or I could just say A, and if I say nothing else, no notation over it, you know that it's a point. Here's another example. Just A, just like I wrote above. Next one, line. A line looks like this. It's straight and it has arrows on the ends. So, specifics to drawing it, arrows on the ends. Okay, so let's go down here to an example. Let's draw ourselves an example here. So if I have a line, our line needs to have 2 points on it. That's one way to name it. So let's go A, B. I can identify this by the 2 letters. So I can say this is A, B. And to name that, those are 2 points A, B, but to say that these are part of a line, I draw a line over the top of it, just like so. And I could also refer to this as line BA, so I could flip those around. Say my line doesn't have any points on it, but it has a little cursive lowercase letter, so maybe an M. I could identify this line just by the lowercase cursive M. So I could say this is line M. I don't have to put a notation above it because I have that word line. The next piece is segment. So this is similar to a line, but it does not go on forever. So lines have arrows, meaning they go on forever in each direction. A segment has closed points on each end. So it has 2 distinct endpoints. Again, it is straight though. All of these are straight lines. So for our example down here, let's just do a little segment that has endpoints of CD. 2 ways to name this, CD or DC. To show you that these are segments, I just put kind of a bar over them, looks like a repeating bar. This tells you it does not go on forever. I'm specifically talking about the segment from C to D or D to C. The next one, ray. Ray is where I have 1 closed endpoint and the other end has an arrow. So starting point, going in one direction with an arrow. So this is my starting point. It's going in one direction forever. Example, so let's go ahead and draw our point. So let's say my starting point is E. It's going in one direction here. I do need a second dot on this ray here, F, our second point. So we name rays in specific orders. So if I was talking about this ray specifically, I have to go from the starting point E, F, and I notate it with this bar over it, but I notate it with the arrow, so it tells you that the side that has F on it is the one that's going forever. So I name this with the starting point and one other point on array. A plane looks like a parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel. Doesn't necessarily have to be a square, just a parallelogram. Opposite sides being parallel. So we usually draw all of this on a plane. So here's an example. I have this plane here. A couple ways I can name this plane. Okay, if I have, let's say I just have a letter in the corner. This letter being in the corner is how I could name this plane. So I could call it plane T. A couple things about that. It is a capital letter. These are specifics that are important. Capital letter, and it is a non-point letter. So notice there is no dot next to that. It's not a point. It's the name of the plane. Okay, here's another way we could name it. So say I have this line on the plane. Here's L, here's M, and let's say there's another point over here, N. I could go ahead and name this plane with these three letters because they're not on the same line. So we would call that non-collinear points. Collinear means, so L and M are collinear. Collinear meaning line, so on the same line. We want 3 points that are non-collinear. So I could say this is plane L, M, N. Last part, angles. So an angle looks like that. It's two rays. They're creating this angle here. This point here is called the vertex. That's the point that they share. So it's two rays with common starting points. And their starting point is called text. So, for example, let's draw ourselves an angle. And let's give this angle a letter here. A point there and a point here. The letters don't matter, I'm just making this up for the example. So a couple ways that I can name this by the symbols and letters. First, I can name it by the vertex. So this, we would use the angle symbol, angle H. I can name that because there is only one angle that is angle H, and it's the inside right here. I could name it by 3 points, but the vertex must be in the middle. So I say by 3 points. With vertex in the middle. So this is angle, vertex has to be in the middle. So G, H, I. or angle IHG. Okay, lastly, I could have a number on the inside of the angle right there, having a number there. So I could label this or refer to this angle by the number. So by number, angle 2. A couple more vocabulary words would be collinear. So co meaning together, and then linear meaning line, so they're on the same line. And then coplanar, co together, plane meaning our planes here. That means they're on plane. All right, so that's some big vocabulary words that you will use for the rest of the school year. Very important. Let's go ahead and practice an example. So either you can flip this page over, you can open up a new note and start kind of making a sketch, or you can get out a piece of loose leaf. What I'm going to do on the back of my sheet here is I'm just going to draw a plane. So I'm just drawing a parallelogram. It doesn't quite meet up there. You're using pencil, which is good. All right, so now let's go ahead and give this plane a name. So I'm going to use N. Typically, our plane names are going to be in the bottom left or the top left. And let's go ahead and draw a line through it here. And let's give it 2 points. Let's draw another line. Let's say that this is C and this is B here. Let's draw another line that shares point C. So through like this. So point C, and let's give it another point over here. Maybe that's point D. Okay, and let's say that I have a line that actually cuts through this plane. So for example, if I have this piece of paper here and it has the hole in it, so maybe this whole paper is a plane, and I have a line on the plane, so the pen here, and let's say I have another line that goes through the plane at this point here, the hole punch. So the line is going through the plane. The line is not necessarily on the plane, but it cuts through it. So this point here, maybe that is our point B. It's cutting through the plane, it's touching the plane in one point, and it's cutting through another side. So let's draw what that could look like. So if I have this line, it's coming down, and it hits the plane at point B, and it cuts through the other side, I would notate that with like a dashed line, and then after I see the other side of the plane again, I can go back to solid. I typically like to name that with a point on either side of the outside. So A, and then I could have the E over here. So what that looks like is I have the pen cutting through the plane. If this is a big picture, the plane point that it hits here is B, so my hole punch here is B. So A would be on this side, B is where I'm hitting the plane, and then C would be on the other side here, other side of my plane. So when you see this cut through, these little dash marks, that shows you that this line AE cuts through the plane. It does not sit on the plane. So let's list some things. Name the plane. A couple of examples how we can name this plane. I can call it plane N, capital N. I could name it by 3 non-collinear points. So I cannot say A, B, E, 1, because A and E are not on the plane, but those are a part of the same line. I can call it CBD or CDB because those are not on the same line, but they're all on the plane. So plane CDB, or CBD. Let's do another one. Name 3 collinear points. So collinear, on the same line. Well, C and B are on the same line, but I don't have a third point on that line. C and D are on the same line, but I don't have a third point on that line. A, B, and E are all a part of the same line. That makes them collinear. Even though they're not on plane N, I can still describe them. So, name 3 collinear points. That would be A, B, and E. I don't need to put anything over them because they're points. I can just put commas between them because they're capitalized. You know that they're points. Let's do another one. Name a ray non-coplanar to CB, the line CB. So CB is on plane N. We want to name a ray, meaning it has a starting point and the other point is an arrow to CB. So we are focusing on this line segment here from A all the way to E. And we want to identify a ray on it. So I could say BA is non-coplanar to CB, even though B is shared there. So B to A, I have to start at B and go to A because A is the end with the arrow. So then I would name it like that. B to A. The other option there is to go from B to E. So I'd say B, E. B is my starting point, so that starts with the solid, and then my arrow. So let's just do one more here before you start your own practice. Name a segment on plane N. Name a segment on plane N. All right, so line segment. We don't have anything that is just strictly a segment, but we have these lines like line CB that I can identify just from C to B there as a segment. And when I notate that, I say CB with a line there. And because it's a line segment, I know that that also could be BC. You could also choose CD as a segment. Let's see here. Are B and D connected? No, they're not, so I can't choose a segment there. A and B are connected. That's a segment, but A is not on the plane, so I cannot choose that. So without kind of flip-flopping and reversing these, I've listed all of my segments. We could go through and list angles, so I could find this angle here, and I could identify that as CBCD. Always kind of tracing it with your pen, BCD. Well, that sandwich is in this angle right here. A lot of things we can go with. From here, if you have any questions, make sure you ask in class or shoot me a Canvas message. Your homework or practice is going to be on the module.